Welcome back to Second Breakfast and our ongoing Summerween series, celebrating hot weather and horror movies by bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of Derry, Maine.
Did y'all really think we were going to get through a whole Summerween without talking about one Stephen King?
We've been kind of on a clown kick lately.
That's true, we have.
So it felt like a good moment. We just did the Hell House episodes. We have a future episode coming out on Clown in a Cornfield. And we have this one about It. We're covering both movies, which we saw at the time. They meant a lot to us. Obviously, these films were gigantic hits. They broke records for R-rated movies. I think they kind of defined this generation of horror movies. They graduated from Stranger Things. It was a phenomenon, these movies, when they came out. So now that we have some distance, 5 years, I think it's 6 years, actually, from the second one.
Yeah.
We have some real perspective on this series. Do you want to do some quick impressions first? Because have you seen these movies in a while? What did you think of going back to them?
It was really, really fun. I had seen the first one, I want to say 2 or 3 times, and I had seen the second one once or twice. And so rewatching them, the movies were certainly familiar. It wasn't like, oh, I forgot a lot of these things. But I think my impression of these movies was really not true to how I ended up feeling about them. I remember really disliking part 2. And I think a lot of people disliked part 2. And on a rewatch, there are things about part 2 that I don't like, but on the whole, I think these are both really solid movies. And I think as a person who really, really loves the book, I think it's a pretty great adaptation of the book. I mean, there are things that I don't agree with in terms of the structuring, and there are some things that I don't really like the changes they made, but there are some changes that I think were great, and I think overall it honors the spirit of the book really, really well, and I like it being 2 movies. I think that's a fun idea. Like, overall, I had a really great time, and I remember thinking, these movies are scary and emotional, and they pack a punch, and I really enjoyed them. What about you?
No, I'm glad you said that, because it is worth saying that we have both read the book, and we both loved the book. I mean, I did the audiobook, and it was like 50 hours. It's a commitment.
It took me like 4 months to read this book.
But it was a fun 4 months. I like living in this world. I'm glad it was 2 movies. I kind of wish it was more. I know. I did such a deep dive online because Andy Muschietti, the director of both of these, he spent years in interviews talking about this supercut, where he was going to take all of the deleted scenes from part 1 and part 2 and cut them together into this big one long Goliath of the entire story.
Wow.
And I'm so curious about what that would have looked like. The last time he talked about it was 2021. He talked about it a little bit during the pandemic.
Okay.
And nothing since then. I'm wondering if when that Welcome to Derry spin-off show comes out, because he's involved in that, I'm wondering if that'll come up again. But there's no news on that yet.
Okay.
But yes, I would I'd happily spend much more time in this world.
Me too.
I loved going back to these. I loved the first one. I'm not sure as much what I thought about the second one yet.
Okay.
We're going to talk about these films in turn. We're going to do part 1 first, then we'll get to part 2, because I think that one is a bigger question mark.
I agree.
Starting with part 1, I think the place we have to begin here is Pennywise. We have to do a clown check-in, if that's our theme this summer.
Let's talk about the damn clown.
We have to talk about the clown, because he is one of the very best. I still think the freaky clown in Hell House LLC is scarier, but Pennywise, as played by Bill Skarsgård, he's a Mount Rushmore level clown.
Absolutely. He's so unsettling. He does a really, really good job.
And it's harder to answer the question of why is he so good, because you see him and it's just, oh yeah, that's a scary clown in a movie. That's the best it can be. But to talk about creature design, he's got a big head.
Big head.
He's got a very big head.
Which can look funny, and it does sometimes in part 2. But like in the first one, it's just unsettling.
I think a lot of it, because I'm comparing it to the Tim Curry version.
Yeah.
And the thing I don't love as much about that version of Pennywise is the color scheme. I think the palette needs to be bold but limited. I love that Pennywise is kind of this off-white, eggshell, kind of gray with red. And like a little bit of yellow in the eyes. But it's basically white and red. I think that's so much more effective. And the big feature of his creature design that I was just glued to and enraptured by for this viewing of these 2 movies was the drool.
I know, the drool was really getting to me. So we were watching this movie at home, and we had just made some wonderful frozen pizzas, and we were enjoying our medley of pizza. And I I don't really get squeamish that much in movies. Like, I don't love watching a bone break, but like, I'll eat anything. I love to eat. I'll eat any snack.
It sounds like you'll eat bones, but okay.
I will eat bones. I admit it here on the show. No. My point is, like, I don't get all that squeamish. I'll eat anything kind of at any time. I'm not a person who's like, oh, that's not for dinner conversation. Like, whatever.
I'll put me off my dinner.
Yeah, like, I'll talk about, I don't care. But watching this first scene in the movie where Georgie encounters Pennywise in the sewer, I'm eating my pizza and Pennywise is drooling so much. I was like, I think I'm going to throw up this pizza right now. I don't know if I can eat this right now. It was so gross. And it's the mouth, and it's the way the lip is so big and plump and wet.
When his whole face and eyes go dead. I mean, that beginning is an all-timer.
That is an amazing opening scene. It's so good.
And I love the way the performance is complemented by the rest of the production. Mm-hmm. The sound design, that almost techno. I mean, it's not techno, but you know what I mean? There's kind of a synth that they layer on top of it when things get real serious with the clown, with this like that. It makes it so much scarier.
And the score is really nice.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The set pieces are designed to accent his scariness.
Yes.
I feel like the lighting starts with Pennywise and everything else is downstream of him. Mm-hmm. The movies prioritized the clown. I mean, you'd think that would be obvious, but we've seen plenty of bad clown movies too. I loved that there were so many decisions that Bill Skarsgård was making that should not have worked.
Okay.
There were a lot of risky, almost silly things that he did, whether it was the dancing, throwing the arms and the legs back and forth, or just some of the slithering he does into frame, or when they give him the big dog tongue.
Oh,
remember in the Hall of Mirrors? That might be in the second one. We're trying to just talk about the first one.
It is, yeah.
But he does plenty of things that shouldn't be scary, and they are. Mm-hmm. It's a shockingly unabashed performance for being the introduction of this icon when you're living in the shadow of Tim Curry.
Totally.
He is fearless here.
And one of my favorite things, and this unfortunately gets into the second movie, but I think it's important here, is when you look at the design of Pennywise, you think, oh, well, it's not Bill Skarsgård, it's the makeup, it's the creature design, and that's what's so scary. And that is very, very scary. But there's a scene in the second one where he is not in his makeup, and he is still the scariest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. He is so unsettling in his movements and his facial expressions and what he does with his voice and his eyes. Like, again, I know there are elements of special effects going on, especially how his eyes are able to go in, different directions, but it's his performance that's really taking it to the next level. The costume and makeup design is fantastic, but Bill is at the heart of the terror here.
And this does feel like a unique thing to talk about, because we talk about creature design all the time when we do horror episodes, and we're rarely talking about the intricacies of the performer. Mm-hmm. It's usually about the mask or the weapon or some other signature item. But the signature part of Pennywise here is what Bill Skarsgård is bringing to it. Mm-hmm. It's a weirdly actor-led horror icon.
And this is what's interesting, is that I was noticing watching these movies, if you compare it to the book, the clown, like Pennywise in the form of the clown, doesn't really happen all that much in the book. Very, much more often he's taking the shape of whatever other bug art thing the kids are afraid of, right? He's a werewolf, I forget what else. But so he's not often the clown. And you really don't, I mean, that's what's so great about the book, is you're not really thinking about the character Pennywise, you're thinking about the larger entity, like this sort of encapsulation of fear, and it's much more focused on the characters of the kids and them as adults. But in the movie, you need something visual. You need a visual villain, I think, to really hold on to and be afraid of and think about and visualize. Even though he does take many, many forms, I like how much more of the clown we get in these movies, because I think and I think that was a good choice in translating this into film, and it's done so well on top of that through Bill Skarsgård's performance.
But it kind of shouldn't work. Mm-hmm. I feel like even that choice is breaking some rules that we would have said were eternal within the genre. If you think of a lot of the other icons of the field, if you think about the shark in Jaws, you never see the shark. If you think about a lot of the other masked killers, you see them when they're doing a kill. And besides that, it's all about atmosphere and aura and suggestion.
Yeah, they're hiding in the dark.
A wink and a nod and a partial fragmented view, like the way Shelob is introduced in Lord of the Wings.
The Lord of the Wings.
I'm hungry. Where it's just little bits and pieces.
Yeah,
but you try to refrain from showing the whole creature.
Sure.
And that was my second point here, is the frequency with which you see Pennywise.
Right, because usually if you see it too much, it stops being scary.
And usually you see this kind of freaky killer during a kill. Mm-hmm. And none of the principals die in this movie. Like, Georgie dies, but he's not one of our leads.
That's the inciting incident,
And, Steve Hofstetter, if that's his name, he dies.
Yeah.
But it's not a slasher in that way because none of the losers die.
Right.
But we see the killer all the time. And it's not only during moments where we think one of the kids is going to bite it. He interferes in the narrative. Pennywise pops in during these like non-horror scenes to the point where he's tormenting the kids.
Yeah, that's the thing is. He's not just trying to kill them. He is messing with them. He's getting into their heads.
Which is ultimately more insidious and troubling.
Yes, and then
it's
of course
the killer playing with their food.
Yes, and then it gets into our heads, and that makes it even scarier for us too. And so it's impressive that it's like actually the more we see him, the more scary he becomes.
And it gives it some of that that energy that we talked about in the episode we did on The Empire Strikes Back. Where we were trying to crack the code of we loved the first Star Wars so much, why did we love the second one so much and hate Return of the Jedi? And a lot of it was that Empire feels like a chase movie. The entire thing feels like they're on the run and the Empire's nipping at their heels. And I loved that this movie, from the jump basically, because Pennywise is tormenting the kids, it feels like he's chasing them.
Yes,
but he's chasing them individually. There are so many vignettes we get of him, because he has this shape-shifting ability, appearing to them in all of these forms and then tormenting them together in the clown form. Start to finish, I mean, he's there, every 10 minutes throughout a 2-hour movie?
Yeah.
If you compare that to the slow start of most slashers, you see a fragment of Jason at the beginning, and then you see more of him as the film goes on. You get a lot of exposition, then the kills start. There's a church and state divide. Here, you get the monster during almost all of the exposition.
That's true.
And then you get him throughout these characters' development. He interferes with every element of the story here. But he never feels overexposed. Like, none of this, even as I'm describing it now, none of it should work.
I know
but
what you're saying, yeah.
Good.
And I think that's sort of like, that's what's true in the book too, even though like, in terms of like what he visually appears as, it's very different in the book, but that presence, that fear, which is what he's supposed to sort of embody, is always there. And this whole story is about these individual fears that each of these characters have and how they impact them from their childhoods all the way through into their adulthoods. And so it's constant, it's ever present. And so I think having Pennywise on screen here visually ever present is, I think, perfect for the story, even though, like you're saying, on paper that shouldn't work. Because you should always adopt less is more when it comes to showing your villain, but it's working so well here.
And to bring in another clown that we've done multiple episodes on, Art the Clown.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I watched Terrifier, and I love that first one so much. 2 and 3 are such an amazing step up from a production level, but the creature design is the thing. That is always the most important thing, and that's there from the jump in the first movie. I mean, it's there pretty much from All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
But I could just look at Art the Clown forever. I think it's endlessly interesting and magnetic.
Yeah.
I love every detail. It's so scary. I don't know. I cannot look away.
Yeah.
But I love how much this film switches up Pennywise's form. I know it's nothing compared to the book. I know that is a real magic trick of the book of how little clown there is, but how memorable the Pennywise persona is. But even in this version, I thought they kept it fresh. Seeing the weird portrait, seeing a bit of the mummy, seeing the leper appear for Eddie. They kept it intriguing. They kept that, they kind of hid the ball a little bit. For as much as Pennywise was intruding in the movie, I feel like they still kept the thing that he really is remote.
Yes, right. And so there would just be little visual indicators that help us understand that it is the clown, like having the balloons or like a red nose or some little indicator that it is this clown, but it's taking these other forms as well. You're right. Because if it had been every single time something scary happens, you're seeing the clown just as he is, that would have certainly gotten old. But it's the blending of having him take these different forms, but there's still the clown thing going on, and then he does appear like either at the end or the very beginning, and so it's a really well executed magic trick.
I feel like you show up to this movie for Pennywise. It's
Sure.
all about the clown.
Of
You
course.
see the creature design in a trailer, on a poster, and you're there.
You're like, I'm signed up.
And
I'm
that
seated.
first scene locks you in.
Yeah.
To Georgie, and it's just when his gums shoot forward and he has all these extra rows
the
of teeth.
Oh.
It's unbelievable.
And they're like, no, yeah, we're going to show you, we're going to show a kid's arm being amputated. We're not going to like hide from that. You're like, oh, we're doing it. Okay, great.
So that's what gets you in the door.
Yeah.
But the thing that keeps me entertained, the thing that keeps me coming back to these movies, and that I still marvel at so many years later, I saw both of these in theaters when they came out, it's the dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
It's and it reminded me so much of the conversation we had many years ago at this point about The Ritual.
Yes.
We were in awe of the dialogue of that film because it felt so naturalistic.
So true.
And charming, so lived in, so relatable. And this is that for middle school. Where you just say awful shit to each other. You're testing boundaries. It's all about banter and shock value. And importantly, because this is quite the ensemble of the losers, it's a lot about overlapping conversations.
Yes.
And sniping in little barbs and jabs.
And side conversations happening alongside the larger group conversation. It's perfect.
This young cast is perfection.
They're
they are
so
all
good.
stars.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many
good.
times you see it. It's so funny.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy watching them. I love their dynamics. I love their connections with each other. I feel like I understand and get every single one of those kids because it's so easy. I mean, 7 characters is a lot, especially when 6 of them are boys and they all have really, really common names like Ben and Bill and Mike. Like, how do you keep those straight?
Eddie Ritchie, yeah.
Yeah, but the characters are so individual and specific. And again, this comes from the genius of the book. The characters are so well developed in the book, but it's translated into the film really well. They're so individual that you understand who they all are very quickly, and you never have trouble telling them apart. Because I've seen plenty of ensemble movies where I mix up 2 characters, I can't tell who's who, and at the end it doesn't really matter. We just recorded an episode about Friday the 13th. That's an ensemble cast. I couldn't tell you the name of a single character in that movie. That movie is perfect and wonderful, and we talked all about it in the episode, but the characters are not the point in that movie. Here they are, and you understand all of them very specifically.
And it's easy to tell them apart because they're so well rendered, and because the film feels like it's being crafted from their perspective.
Yes.
It almost reminded me of the Peanuts, where you see the world from the way they see it.
Yeah, you don't
Them
see
and
the
Snoopy.
adults. The adults are off screen. They're too tall.
Yes, exactly. They're
Yeah.
off screen, and their dialogue doesn't count. It's
Right.
the wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not people. They don't
They're
count.
not characters,
They're not
yeah.
comprehensible to the world that you're inhabiting. And every adult in the first movie is a monster. They are
Yes.
all grounded as the kids, but you're twisting the knife. You're making them monsters instead of relatable, funny kids. And I mean, just rattling them off here. The dad of the bully, the cop that he knifes at
Henry
the end,
Bauer's dad, yeah.
the guy at the pharmacy who does the Superman thing with
he's
Beverly.
Gross, yeah.
Beverly's dad.
Ugh.
Eddie's mom, and the librarian who's such a shit to
She's
Ben.
so mean. She's like, why are you judging this kid?
They're all so nasty and selfish and evil. And, that's not a surprise. We've seen evil people all across horror. But they feel as real and as lived in as the kids do.
Totally.
I love that the film it embraces Stephen King's superpower, which is human, well-rendered characters.
Yes.
It uses that for the heroes, and then for the adults, it makes them all that scary and that tangible as villains.
Yeah, I mean, you do see Bill's dad as well, and he's not quite as like on this villain level as the other adults, but he really, I mean, he's a negative force for Bill. You can tell he is like not supporting Bill and his desire to like sort of move through his grief with Georgie and like come to some closure there, and he's not being very helpful or comforting in that way. And you kind of get the sense, and maybe I'm just extrapolating from the book and getting it mixed up, but you kind of get the sense that the parents resent Bill a little bit, like for the loss of Georgie, and of course that is all about Bill's own guilt about Georgie, because that's what the whole second film explores, right? So it makes sense. So you're right. I love the role that the adults play here. Nothing here is like accidental or ancillary or inconsequential.
And we know that Bill's dad is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the thing with the sewers and the tunnels. We know that's right.
Yeah,
we
he's
know
wrong.
the well. And so he's at least an antagonist
Yes.
to Bill.
Right.
moving past the dialogue, I want to talk about adaptation for a second. And this is still kind of limited to the first half. But just to noodle on the book for a second, for being a long movie that moves at an incredibly efficient pace, they still had to cut a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, just back of the napkin math, that's 25 hours of a 50-hour audiobook.
Yeah,
if
right.
you're just doing the first half.
Sure.
They cut so many interludes. Obviously, they divvied up the timelines. They added a lot more Pennywise, and specifically a lot more Pennywise as a clown.
Yes.
They cut a lot of the more abstract cosmology stuff. They cut the tunnel scene at the end that I don't want to talk about at all.
No one wants to talk about it ever.
And they condensed this into a significantly shorter story.
Yeah.
But it all still works.
It does.
As an adaptation, beyond the kind of arguable original sin of splitting up the timelines.
Yes.
I think this is a startlingly good adaptation.
It really is, yeah. And I think the challenges of the second one are sort of like, you can't really blame them, because you're right, like the original problem is the splitting. But that means that the first one works really well because you don't have to worry about dancing between the timelines, because you're just doing the kids timeline. Sorry, I'm thinking about the end of the book. Anyway, you're just focusing on the kid's story. And so it works really well. But then by the time you get to the second movie, you kind of paint yourself into a corner. Stop laughing at my horrible line there.
I'm laughing at the way you saved it. I was startled by you just tripped on your own dick there, but I thought you saved it in
you
such a great way.
You got to just keep it moving and not acknowledge it.
No, you didn't. You saved it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, great.
Let me save you.
Okay, thanks.
Something we were kind of yelling at the screen. When we watch a horror movie, it's like the Super Bowl for us.
It's really fun.
I couldn't get away from the Mike Flanagan of it all. And I know we're trying to just talk about the first one, but
I know what you
obviously, mean, the color grading.
Yeah.
This movie's very green.
It's very Finchery.
No, Finchery's yellow.
Oh,
Flanagan's green.
Oh, my mistake. You're right. You're right. Sorry, Fincher is
There's
yellow.
A difference.
Okay, yeah, no, it's true.
There's a difference.
There's a Venn diagram. Yeah.
I think it's more the influence of, as you know, The Haunting of Hill House's biggest fans.
Yeah.
There's so much of that in it. Mm-hmm. I never really realized how big an influence the book was on his Hill House adaptation.
I see. Yeah.
Did you see a lot of that here? Just as an aside?
Yes. When I'm trying to figure out which things I consumed first, I want to say I read it before I watched Hill House. I think that's right. But I'm realizing now why I love both of them. And it's because both of them are these like flitting between timelines, exploring childhood and adulthood, exploring families and friendships, and like decades of trauma and how it impacts you over time, and grief. Like, it's all of those things. And
shape-shifting horrors, the character growing up to be a writer and obliquely write about his experience.
Right. And it's like terrifying and sad all at the same time. Like, that's I think my favorite kind of horror. I love all subgenres of horror. I love all the different places horror can go, but I think this is my favorite way that it can be. And both The Haunting of Hill House, the show, and the book, and this first movie really tap into those things.
I want to transition into talking about the second movie, but I do think the platonic ideal of an It adaptation would be a miniseries
from Mike Flanagan.
And it's kind of his Hill House.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of already got that.
I know, it's like we kind of don't need to, but also if he did, I would be seated.
Oh, day one. So let's talk about part 2, or chapter 2, which came out years later. Mm-hmm. And I think expectation is a good place to start here, because the first one broke all records for R-rated films. Like, I think it's the highest grossing R-rated horror film ever.
I think you might be right. I want to say Sinners it didn't break those records, but it crept up towards them, right? Didn't Sinners, there was something about R-rated with Sinners.
Yeah, something.
I'm making
I remember at the time it broke a lot of records.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it made, for a horror movie, it made a ton of money.
Yeah.
So the second one, I feel like, I would argue it was the most highly anticipated horror sequel of our lifetime.
I mean, yeah, I can't think of another that was that anticipated.
With probably the highest budget. Mm-hmm. I think between those two, I don't know if we've seen a horror movie with more money put into it in the last couple of decades. Mm-hmm. And it spends a lot of time. It talks a big game at the beginning of the second one. It spends a while making fun of bad endings. It talks the talk.
I know.
Only to then arguably itself have a bad ending.
It's a very bad ending. It's unfair because the book also has a very bad ending. And I don't just mean the tunnel scene. I mean in general, it's not a great ending. It's messy. All the cosmic stuff is weird and confusing, and the spidery form that Pennywise takes is okay, but like it's just, I mean, once the climax of the movie is over, like once Pennywise is defeated and like the book is actually ending, like the last little bit of the book is good. It ends beautifully. It's very poetic. I think it's like Bill riding on his bike, and it's lovely and great. But the whole like defeating Pennywise is really not great in the book. And so I don't blame the filmmakers for struggling with that.
I agree. I agree with your sympathy with the filmmakers. The question I want to kind of hang over this conversation, because I did a lot of research for this.
Oh, okay.
I fully refamiliarized myself with how the book ends, how the movie ends, the differences and the changes.
Good for you, because I don't remember.
I know. It only takes one of us. It's been years. It only takes one of us to research the podcast. The question that I want to hang over the discussion is this a bad ending? Does the second movie have a bad ending? Does the book have a bad ending? Is it a better end? Like, I want to question this, because you're right. The conventional wisdom is the second movie sucked. And a lot of that is about the ending. And I want to, I don't know, zoom out from that and question that presumption.
Okay.
So talking about the changes between the book and the movie cuts out the turtle.
Yes.
The big, which is, his name's like Marathon or
I couldn't
something
tell you.
like Manchurian.
The turtle.
There's a big mind battle with the turtle.
Yeah.
Where Bill and Richie go into the brain, and it's a whole thing, and it sucks.
It's weird. Yeah.
The other thing is the final form of Pennywise in the final fight is not clown at all. He's just a spider. He's just a huge, big-ass, Aragog, Shelob-style cosmic spider.
Okay.
Versus in the movie, he's a clown with a big ass.
Yeah, he's got the biggest ass you've ever seen.
He's got a couple.
8 legs.
He's got a couple extra ruffled legs and some weird like crab stabbies.
And he doesn't look scary. It's such a shame. He just looks goofy.
He's a clown with a big ass.
Yeah.
He's not a spider. And clowns are not my kryptonite. Spiders are.
Right.
But even zooming out objectively, if you've spent 5 hours collectively looking at Pennywise,
right,
that's not going to be as impactful as a final boss as him turning into anything else.
Right.
You do have a fresh scare there, which they totally omit in the movie.
Yes.
And there's another wrinkle here that's in the book. There's a suggestion that it, in its final spider form, is female and pregnant.
Right. Oh, that's right.
And that there are all these eggs that it's giving birth to. So there's a threat that if they fail in this final boss confrontation of the adult losers versus the final form of it, that the cycle will continue, that there'll be all these other forms of the thing in the eggs that will survive. Ben eventually destroys the eggs. One thing that they add in the movie that is not in the book is the side quests where everyone has to go find their respective tokens.
Oh yeah, for the ritual of chud. I almost said we were joking that it would be, and I'm not going to say it here.
It's chud, as Maggie said, not chode. So they have to go find their respective tokens to like remind themselves of what happened. Their little tokens of their childhood. That's not in the book.
Yeah, I didn't think it was.
But that's a great ad.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
In the movie.
I think that's cool.
Because it does the thing we just complimented so much that the first movie has, which is Pennywise chasing them individually, them seeing individual forms of him, having those character building scares. We get a whole round of those in the second movie that we wouldn't have in a straight adaptation.
And it's an evolution of that because they're willingly seeking out and like putting themselves in those scary situations and sort of reclaiming them or taking ownership of them or identifying them and understanding them in a way that they couldn't when they were kids. So I think that's great.
So for keeping score here, cutting the turtle, that's a good decision.
Yes.
Cutting the spider, bad decision.
Yeah.
Adding the tokens, good decision. So on a par, the movies are ahead.
Okay.
Other changes from the book. Bill's wife is in a clown-induced coma and is saved by his special magic.
Oh,
at the end.
I remember her being there. I just don't remember the magic part.
She's in a coma. He rides the bike, and after Pennywise is done, he uses the last bit of his clown-killing magic to revitalize his wife.
Okay.
It sucks.
That
so
does
cutting
suck.
that, another plus. That's good for the movie. Another thing that's in the book is Beverly's husband goes to Derry.
That's right.
Follows her there, becomes possessed by the clown, and dies. that would have been cool.
That would have been so
That's a bad
cool.
cut.
I really think that the choice of having her just like seemingly very easily leave her husband at the beginning and like he never comes back, I think that's a bad choice.
I wouldn't call it easy, but yeah.
No, but I'm saying she just like, after a difficult struggle, she just like leaves and it's never a problem again. I don't buy that in terms of how those things go and how he's been presented to us.
I wonder if there's a deleted scene.
Yeah, I wonder
because
about
that feels like, you're right, it's an open thread the way they leave it in the film.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens at the end of the book is part of Derry collapsing after the final battle.
Oh, that's right.
And then it's pointedly all of the adult losers forget everything that happened again. Presumably not including Ben and Beverly, who stay together.
Right, somehow. Yeah.
So to go back again, cutting the turtle is a good change. So here, count on your fingers.
I'll count on
here.
my fingers,
Yeah.
okay.
Cutting the turtle, that's good for the movie. Cutting the spider, bad change.
Okay.
Going through the notes. Adding the tokens, that's good.
That's good.
Cutting the clown coma, the wife saved by the bell of the bicycle, that's a good change.
That was also a good choice, yeah.
Cutting Beverly's husband,
Bad choice.
Bad choice. Do you care about the town collapsing and everyone forgetting? I don't care about that. I could give or take.
They also hint at them forgetting in the movie. Like
Okay.
Bill says,
All right,
I'm starting to forget stuff. So I think that's like neutral.
We'll call that a draw.
Yeah.
So what's our final
So
score?
we're at 3 good and 2 bad.
So to return
so
to
far,
the question,
the movie's doing well.
is the ending of It Chapter 2 better than the book? Apart from the fact of, do both endings suck a little? Is the ending of the movie better than the ending of the book?
It seems like it is. And even like outside of the way you just presented it, like if we quantify it, yes, it is better. But I think you're right. Like zooming out and just thinking about them both, yeah, it is better. However, it's still not great.
And you hit the nail on the head. You said this, we're half an hour in. So 20 minutes ago, I think you stumbled on the answer here.
Oh, okay.
Because my contention is that the ending is an improvement and that all of the remaining shortcomings of the ending, it goes back to the original sin of this adaptation, which is the timeline split. I think the problems of this ending are inherent to the timeline split. And if you're doing any version of this story with all of the story of the young losers and then all of the story of the old losers, it's gonna hit less hard the second time.
Right.
It's necessarily redundant and anticlimactic to see all the people older go to the same cave and have the same fight. Oh, they win. I don't care. I already saw this.
Well, and what's weird is that their second fight as adults, when they're arguably more capable, not only like physically, but in terms of being able to like attack and address their trauma, right? They don't even do anything.
They do a much worse job the second time.
All they do is yell at it.
Yes.
Like, it's like, at least in the first one, they like physically stab the thing and injure it. In this one, they just yell at it until it becomes a baby. It's so weird. I don't like, I mean,
yell at it till it becomes a baby.
That's genuinely what happens.
No, I'm saying it's crazy that is how it ends.
And I think I said this while we were watching this, I was like, this just feels like Tinkerbell. Like, oh, if you clap enough and you believe in her, she'll live. And so this was just like backwards Tinkerbell. And it was just like, really? That's what we're doing?
I mean, I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
I know you can be a cynical person. You can be a little dreary sometimes.
I can. It's true.
I've never known someone who was so allergic to the power of friendship. And that is the ending of both of these stories.
Which is weird because this story is about friendship. And I think that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. But I just don't think that the thing that bothers me about the ending in both the book and the movie is that this story is so good. These characters are so good. And it's got so much going for it. And then it just falls apart and becomes about if we just band together and say that we're not afraid, then we'll all be okay in Kumbaya. I'm like, are you kidding? Really? Like that's how you're going to solve this like existential problem of how do I address my childhood, like innermost fears and traumas, and how do I cope with that as an adult and deal with forgetting things and remembering and like passing on generational trauma. Like how do I deal with all of that? How do I deal with the guilt of my brother died instead of me because I didn't want to play with him? And the answer is I just have to believe in my friends. Like, I'm sorry. I think that's absurd. And I think that this movie and
my
this
friends
book...
who I forgot for 30 years.
Yeah, right. I think this movie and this book really could have done better. And I'm disappointed in both of them. That's what I think. Now, to be fair, I don't have a better ending. Like, I don't. I'm not a writer.
And you don't have to.
I don't have one that I feel like, yeah, if only they had done this, it would have been perfect. I don't know what it would have been, but I don't think it's this.
But
I don't
that's
think
not
it's
your job as an audience member.
No, it's not. It's the writer's job to do better, and he didn't.
and that's fine. Because
Yeah.
again, I think to make a commercial film of this, you can't put it into one movie. It's not going to work. Even if you edit it like Oppenheimer, I don't think you can get all this shit in one movie.
Yeah.
So you have to make 2 movies, and the logical thing is to split the timeline. But if you make that choice, I think the ending's going to suck.
Yeah, and even outside of the ending, I feel like some of the interstitial, the like kid scenes that they add in the second part, which were a real surprise to me. The scenes are good.
Their little treehouse
Yeah,
underground.
and like
great.
it's all sweet and lovely, but it just feels so retroactive, and I'm like, well, why wasn't this in the first one? And I know they kind of try to justify it being like, oh, we forgot about that part of the summer where we weren't all together, but it doesn't work for me. I'm like, if you're gonna split them, split them. Don't half split them. Don't cut out the adults in the first one and then recommit and go back to splitting in the second one. I found that it was weird, and it felt like they were retroactively trying to fit something in. And also the digital de-aging of the children was unsettling, and I don't think it was meant to be. I didn't
how
like
else
that.
would you have them do that?
That's what I'm saying. You don't cut back to the kids. You
Yeah.
have to split them or don't. You can't have it
Okay,
both ways, you know? And I think that also meant that the second movie was really, really long, and it didn't need to be.
It's not a bad movie. The
Right.
second one.
No,
I think
it's really
to go back
not.
to your positivity
Yeah,
at the
sorry.
beginning, I think you're right. The second movie's good,
Mm-hmm.
and all of its problems are downstream of the source material and that original sin decision to split the timelines,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. And I totally sympathize with the creators, and I can forgive a bad ending in almost all horror movies. I think when
Sure.
you have a great ending, it elevates you to a higher plane of existence.
Yeah.
I talked about the ending of Excision a number of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is a barn burner. That puts the movie on my Mount Rushmore. This one having a bad ending, that's okay. But you can't spend the first 20 minutes talking a big game about bad endings and
No.
then whiff it at the end.
You can't call
That's-
attention to it.
That's why it bugs me.
Yeah. And I know that what they're trying to do is sort of, they're making fun of Stephen King more than they're making fun of their own story. Because Stephen King is sort of, I mean, Bill there,
Great cameo.
where it's perfect. But he's kind of known for bad endings. I mean, I've read not a lot of Stephen King, but I've read some Stephen King. His endings aren't great. He's really good at ideas and characters. He's not amazing at wrapping up a story in a satisfying and interesting way. Like, I mean, he's trying, you know, but that's just not his strong suit. So I think they're kind of making fun of that, and he sort of knows that he's known for that, and I don't mind that.
But it's funny to do that and then not do
And
better.
then do like a worse, well, it's not a worse ending.
It
but
is.
like,
We did the math. It's
right,
3-2.
but it's still a pretty bad ending. Like, it's pretty bad.
But as a horror movie, maybe the best casting of a sequel ever.
Man, yeah.
The scares
It's
are
also
great.
good. Mm-hmm.
The scares are as good as any scares in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
They still have, in Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, one of the best horror villains of all time.
Yeah.
The second movie's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think that should be how we talk about it.
No, I mean, that's
it's
the
great,
thing.
and the asterisk involves talking about the book for 20 minutes.
Well, and that's why I'm so upset about the ending, is because the book and the movie are so good. Like, with all the stuff is said about the ending, especially in the book, which is very bad and very weird, like, it is in my top 10 favorite books. Like, it's a really, really good book, and it means a lot to me. And I remember it being a really intense, profound experience when I read it, and I think about it all the time. Like, it's so good, and that's why the ending, like, is so upsetting to me, because
but it doesn't matter because it still hit your top 10.
Yeah, I'm not like, oh, well, the book's not that great, you know, because the ending, like, well, it could have been good. Like, no, overall, it's an incredible book, and you just kind of, I mean, you got to suffer through some of Mike's ramblings, you know. There are about 300 pages in there that I don't think need to be in there. Mike tends to go on, and then, of course, the ending, but it's a fantastic book. It's so good, and these movies are excellent,
Yes,
and
this
so much fun to watch.
Duology. And
Yeah.
having the restraint to not, once the first movie does gangbusters at the box office, to not accordion this thing out into a 15-part series.
Chapter 2, part 1 and 2, you know.
The fact that they've waited this long to even talk about doing a spin-off with Welcome to Derry, and that they're following the 27-year interlude and they're going back in time. I saw an interesting interview with Andy Muschietti saying we want to do 3 seasons and go back to, I think it's 1908, and we have some Pennywise origin stuff through those 3 seasons. We already have it mapped out. There's a creative integrity
Yes.
in this series / all of these modern, like, it properties that we should talk about before we complain about the
Totally. Yeah, I don't get the sense that they're just capitalizing on the known product and IP of Pennywise, and Stephen King. They're not just doing that. There's a real reverence for this source material and this story, and there's a real artistic interest in exploring it in a really creative way.
And I think it's telling that the thing I was waiting for after the announcement of Welcome to Derry is Andy Muschietti involved?
Mm-hmm.
And almost more importantly, is Bill Skarsgård involved?
Yeah, right.
They're both there.
Uh-huh. Which that gives me a lot of confidence.
Totally.
Also
Absolutely.
HBO, so I'm always on board for
Sometimes.
HBO. Mm-hmm. I'm saying.
You're talking about the HBO of 10 years ago, but yes.
I'm just saying it's record compared to, Netflix.
It's still the best. It's still by far the best streamer, but their generational run has taken a little bit of a hit lately.
The Haunting of Hill House is sort of an outlier in the Netflix world.
It was an HBO show that happened to air on Netflix.
Exactly.
Yes, you're totally right there.
Yeah. This is
fun to revisit.
Very fun. And now I want to reread the book.
Me too.
Well, maybe we have to do it. Maybe we have to do it. Dear listener, is that our next? Do we go back to chapter by chapter and do it? Do you want to spend 5 years talking about it? We can do that.
Another Mike chapter.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh. How do we cover the ending, Cam? We just don't. We'd have to skip right on over it. So what did you think of the tunnel scene? Well, I hated it just as much as you did. All right.
Oh, the recording messed up.
Oh, no, we didn't get that. The episode's corrupted. Anyway, okay. Let us know what you thought of it. What do you think of these movies? What do you think of this as an adaptation? Have you read the book? Share your thoughts and feelings about that. What do you think of the Tim Curry one? We want to keep the conversation going.
Do you believe in the power of friendship?
Do you? Maybe, am I wrong? Convince me that the ending of It Chapter 2 is actually fantastic. I would love to hear it. If you're on YouTube, you can comment down below. Keep the discussion going there. Or if you're listening on a podcast platform, you can send us an email at secondbreakfastpod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us for this installment of Summerween. We got a lot more horror coming your way. We've already had a lot more before this episode aired, whenever that is.
Over on the Patreon, Maggie did an episode on Salem's Lot.
Oh,
that's a bonus
right.
episode over there about that book, in addition to all the other back catalog of bonus episodes we built over the past number of years over there.
It was fun, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Well, no, my favorite Stephen King is It, but I think his scariest book that I've read was Salem's Lot, and I talked a lot about that in that bonus episode. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, $2 a month, you can get access to that episode right now, as well as the whole back catalog, and 2 brand new episodes every single month.
Absolutely. And if you also like cosmic horror and weird freaky things, may I recommend Cam's latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space. It's a light sci-fi dark comedy. It is, what did you call it? You said it was
it's like Friday the 13th, but instead of Jason, the killer is Flubber.
That's right. Yeah, genuinely, that's a great way to describe it. It is so much fun. Cam's an author, if you didn't know. He's a writer and director, voice actor, producer, all kinds of things. So you can check out the book as a regular book form, or you can listen to the fully produced audio drama, which is a real treat. The link to purchase that is in the description of this episode.
Actually, I kind of did a Stephen King pastiche a number of years ago. It's on Audible, I think, still, but I basically did a version of The Shining about starring a chicken.
That's right.
Called Poultrified.
It's so good.
That's there too.
That's one of my favorite things. Oh yeah, Poultrified.
We don't plug that one that much.
We don't plug it much.
The voice
I
do for the chicken is really fun. So that one's there too.
Yeah, what if Jack Torrance was a chicken? It's pretty great. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for listening. This has been so much fun. We'll catch you here in just a few days with another brand new episode.